Okay, guys, so this is going to be a video I've wanted to make for a while. It's going to definitely ruffle a lot of feathers with some of these opinions that I have. Um, and it's very unique. I don't know, I've actually never met anybody in person who's done anything like this. So I feel like I got an interesting perspective to add, but this is basically about the time when I went on Steve Jobs' diet for about 6 months. For those of you who don't know, he started off like gravitated. I think he like was a vegetarian for so long, then he went into raw plant-basedism because plant-based and vegan is way different. I'll tell you why in a second. And then he eventually gravitated to fruitarianism. And then near the end of his life, he was actually doing monofruitarianism. And one thing I want to cover right now is like it's so easy for people to poke at someone's diet whenever it's like something like that when they die. Like I just mentioned how near the end of his life he was in monofruitarianism, where basically he'd eat one fruit for like per week. And when someone dies, they're like, well, I mean, look at his diet, that's what. But like, what's crazy to me is like when somebody with a really unhealthy diet, like when your Uncle John dies at 50 from heart failure, nobody's like, well, he was known to eat McDonald's quite a bit. It's just like it's crazy how like those like the obvious unhealthy one is like forbidden from being attacked, but the one that is like questionably healthy, but at least it's all natural, gets attacked every time. Like every time someone in the raw vegan community dies, everyone's like, well, that's what you get, for eating that type of diet. But nobody wants to say anything about, the clearly unhealthy stuff, like eating pizza and burgers and all this stuff. But anyway, that's besides the point. This was quite a time in my life, like when I tried this, because I wanted something brand new. A lot of you may know that I'd never had fruit before until the beginning of this. And I have a video about that. If you look back on my YouTube, I have a video of me trying fruit for the first time because all I had until then was the grape. And then I switched over to plant-based for a while because I wanted to, again, try something new. I never tried plant-based before, and I was a critic of anything plant-based and veganism for reasons I don't even know. And I don't think most people who criticize it know. So before I dive into my whole quote-unquote journey with that stuff, what it felt like to eat like Steve Jobs and all that, I just want to make this disclaimer right now. Before I got into any of this, I was always one of those people who blindly hated the vegans for I had no idea why. Someone would like say they're vegan, or somebody like would say their sister's a vegan, and all of a sudden that universal smirk and laughter would come out of me. And I didn't even stop to think about why I had that reaction. It was very odd. And then when I decided to transform and here's the key point, I never tried it at that point. And anyone I ever see like criticize it has never tried it, usually. And I want to make this very clear right now. I eat mainly meat now. So I'm not trying to defend it or anything. I'm just trying to say my personal experience with it of criticizing something that I had absolutely no knowledge of, no personal knowledge of. So I'm glad we could get out of the way. So anyway, this is one of my like interesting things I want to bring up that I've never heard anyone talk about. So as I just said, like I would have this visceral reaction, and I've noticed like when I brought it up before, like I had somebody in Colorado recently. I mentioned someone's a vegan, and he was saying how like, well, they wouldn't be welcome at my family dinner. Fuck them. Like I hate all vegans. I'm like, whoa. That brings me back to this opinion I have about why people, including myself, had that type of reaction, because I didn't see any reaction like that ever to anything before until I saw my dad order a well-done steak, and everyone around that table had the same reaction. And I'm like, wait a minute. Anytime anybody ever mentions that they like their steak well done, it's the same reaction as they have towards people who say they're a vegan a lot of the times. Like, what? I never, like, it kind of blew my mind, because I'm like, I never thought about anything to compare that crazy reaction people have to. And then that is when I started learning more about parasites. So the least parasitic diet there is the plant-based. The most parasitic diet there is meat-based, because most parasites live within meat, especially when it's uncooked. So think about it like this. There's this parasite they found that went into the grasshopper and controlled their mind to eventually convince them to kill themselves or do other actions, but they would think that they were like operating on their own. Like, you don't know you're under that spell, because these parasites do have the ability to manipulate your thoughts. So how crazy would it be if because think about it, the reaction towards somebody else cooking their food more than you would, and like a hateful reaction, is kind of bizarre. Like, it has nothing to do with you. And then a hateful reaction towards people who don't eat meat like you, it's kind of bizarre. So you got to think, are those your thoughts, or are those the parasites within you controlling your thoughts to have a visceral, hateful reaction towards anything that threatens the parasites? Just something to think about. And when I bring that up to people, they get very uncomfortable, because you can't necessarily explain why you hate vegans so much. And to make it clear, I should make it clear right now, before I dive into my experience going, like, I wasn't a vegan. I was plant-based for a little bit, and then I went into fruitarianism. But it's very important distinction it took me a while to even learn this. Veganism is avoiding animal products and animal food for the animals. Plant-based is eating plants only and not eating animals for your own benefit. So that's the key difference. If you're a vegan, you're doing it for the animal's benefit. If you're plant-based, you're doing it for your benefit. I can't necessarily come at you and say like, oh yeah, I was doing it for the animal's benefit. It's like, no, I was actually doing it for my benefit. I want to try something new. So yeah, guys, let me know what you think about that in the comments, because like, I know you've never heard that perspective before, and it can only come from somebody who's actually been on both sides of the aisle. Like, I'm not on the inside looking out or the outside looking in. I'm dead fucking center looking around. So don't come at me with your opinions unless you've tried it. You know, you sound like a fool. And I was a fool for a long time, blindly like criticizing people. And now I'm like, wait a minute. Why am I criticizing this guy who's cooking a steak more than I would? Well, maybe it's because I like my steak medium rare, and in medium rare meat is where the most parasites are. The less cooked the meat is, the more parasites there is. Why am I having this visceral reaction towards somebody telling me they only eat plants? Well, probably because maybe any threat to the parasites might be controlling my brain to have a weird reaction to somebody else's eating habits, so much so that I'm taking someone else's eating habits as a personal threat, because that's how you guys sound when you react that way, and that's how I sound. It sounds like their eating habits, cooking that steak to well done, or eating just plants, is a personal threat towards yourself. And that is the only explanation I can find. If you guys have another explanation, leave it below. But that's the only explanation I can find of why I had that reaction, and why it's universal that people just like freak out whenever they find out somebody is like vegan or whatever. But anyway, so let's take it back to, this was two years ago. It was summertime, and I just tried like plant-based for like a 75 hard essentially. I thought it'd be interesting because last 75 hard I did only meat. So this time I want to do the exact opposite. So I did only plants. I came off of that. I went down to Colorado. And then when I got to Colorado, I was like, I just got off of it. So I was just eating whatever I want. And it was interesting because I noticed when I was on plant-based, I think strictly just from the because when I say plant-based, I was not eating like deep fried food or like this dirty vegan stuff. Like, I was just eating like actual clean food, clean grains, clean meat, clean fruit. Because yeah, that's a whole nother topic. So I get down to Colorado and I decide, and I start eating whatever I want, and I notice like my brain fog is just crazy. My strength goes way up, but my brain fog's a lot crazy. And I'm like, you know what? While I'm out here, because it was like I'm in nature, and like I was just looking for a more deeper challenge, especially in Boulder. Like, for those of you who've been to Boulder, this is like the perfect setting to do it. So I had decided that, hold on one second, before I jump into this, I'm just gonna end this screen share. Okay, all right. So when I got there, I just started. I was putting on like 5 pounds, 10 pounds a week because of when you restrict your diet so much. Eventually it gets to the point where like you overeat. So like I started just feeling bloated all the time. I could feel the fat coming on, and I was like, you know what? For the rest of the year, I'm going to go hard at raw plant-based. More specifically, mainly fruitarianism, because I knew that's what like Steve Jobs was into. And part of me was interested because he was into it. Part of me was interested because I was doing the cooked plant-based. So I was like, what if I went that? And then I just started thinking about it more. I'm like, well, what if like I truly try to do something complete opposite of what I'm used to? I mentioned it before. I'd never had fruit before. So I'm like, what if I went all fruit? What if I went pure fruit? And my quote-unquote cheat meals would be like raw vegetables. So that's what I did. I started it off with an 8-day fast. So let me start this. Okay, there we go. So I started it off with an 8-day fast. Let me bring it over here. Oh, did not mean to do that. So here we go. So as you can see, this was before and after this 8-day water fast. And this was crazy because I was living in Boulder at the time, and I had this really cool house with a movie theater. And I'm not lying to you guys, I was still hiking on day 8. Fuck that. I made a video before where I briefly talked about dark energy. And I would be 8 days, no food, water only, no cheating, no tea, no coffee, no nothing. No diets, no Diet Coke. Because a lot of people will sneak Diet Coke. I did just water. And I was still going on hikes every day. And I remember this one time on day 8, I was, however many hours that is. How many hours is that? Like 140 hours into this fast. And I was going up this hill like this. And the 5 people next to me, I didn't know them, but they started complaining, talking about how winded they are and how they might need to take a break. And just those complaints just powered me up like nobody's business. And I just walked so hard right past them. Like, oh my God. I just remember that powered me up because I'm like, these people probably had breakfast this morning. Like they've been eating every day for 8 days. And they're complaining and I'm not. That gives me the power. It's like when it's super cold out and somebody's complaining that it's cold. I always try to take off my jacket and be like, you want this? Because people complaining it's cold makes me want to feel the cold more. But back to the topic. You can see right here, I had all this belly fat, and in 8 days, all the belly fat went away. You can see right here, like my face is kind of like swollen, and then over here, I lost a lot of. Now I will say, for some reason during this period, my I think my left eye, no, my right eye, whatever eye this is, I'm not sure if I flipped the camera or not. It was like always swollen up, and I'm not sure why. Especially when I didn't get much sleep, it would just like swell up, and that still happens today, not as much as it used to, but. This is just the result of an 8-day water fast. So, yeah, something like this really makes you like feel clear and feel very light, like a feather. And I was back to like my very like in tune type of mindset, like trying to think, like very aware, I'm blanking on the word. The opposite of clouded mindset, whatever that is. Can't believe I'm blanking on the word. Maybe I need to get back on the diet. So anyway, this is the type of stuff. This is like a hike I would do when I was out there. So it was like, you gotta imagine. I understand it's a lot easier when you're surrounded by stuff like this to be on such a diet because you're surrounded by nature and you're only eating nature. And this was the house at the time. So this is what I'd see every morning while I was eating my fruit and stuff. So yeah, that was that. I just wanted to set the scene essentially, because another thing I wanted to mention is like you hear people talk about the ancestral diet, right? The ancestral diet. What did our ancestors eat? What did our ancestors eat? Like Liver King and stuff. Well, what did our ancestors eat? You should know the answer. I mean, pretty much only fruit. when you look at the chimpanzee, it only eats fruit. When you look at like the king of the jungle, the gorilla, it only eats fruit with a little bit of spinach. Like it very rarely eats anything besides fruit. So that's why another reason I wanted to try it. And that's that part that always messes with my mind, because I'm like, if there's no protein in fruit, how does the king of the jungle get as strong as it is? I don't know. Maybe someone can answer that in the comments. But anyway, so during that fast, I did go to like the largest EDM concert ever. This was us behind the staff or whatever right here. It was really funny being here because I just met a bunch of my friends that I'm still friends with today, and they're like trying to pour alcohol down my throat and always tempting me. And I didn't budge. And this podcast is also brought to you by AutoDS. AutoDS is one of the industry leaders in all dropshipping fulfillment tools, but they take it a whole lot of steps further. Not only can you get dropshipping time down to 2 to 3 business days, you also get so many more tools. Because AutoDS is one of the biggest dropshipping softwares in the world, they've implemented a product research tool that tracks all their analytics, all their orders, and then you can use that data to find your own winning products and see where the trends are going, or even use a product that you know is selling really well right now. They have a TikTok ad spy tool built in, so you can even look deep into the TikTok ad side of things for all your product research needs. And all of it is automated. Gone are the days where you need like a VA going around and fulfilling these orders for you. AutoDS, it is completely automated. Not even just the orders, but also the tracking updates and the returns. All of that is taken care of by them. They already have a lineup of 500 million products you can choose from. It sounds like a joke, but that's an actual truth. But I think what really makes them stand out is all their worldwide suppliers that they're connected to. Because most softwares are just like AliExpress and their own suppliers, but these guys are, Amazon, Walmart, eBay, Costco, Target, Overstock, Lowe's, and so many more. AutoDS is truly the all-in-one tool you need for all your dropshipping needs. So if you'd like to test it out, go to the link in the description below. You'll get a special deal through my link. Whether you're brand new at dropshipping or an experienced dropshipper, definitely check these guys out. Now back to the podcast. So as I started this diet, it was really interesting because it was kind of like playing a game anywhere I went. So when I would wake up in the morning, usually I would either start it with one of these smoothies right here from this place. It's all local. It's all organic. Or from the same place, local organic juice, both of which I never had before. You got to remember, guys, I've never had this stuff before. So it was only what I was doing. And sometimes I would start it with both. So a lot of sugar, but it's low glucose sugar. You don't really get diabetes from low glucose. Low glycemic. And then here's an example of like the raw vegetables I would eat. I would hand make this sauce. It's crazy looking back on this stuff because it's been so long since I've done this. But yeah, I would make a sauce. I would cut up these like zucchini noodles. That's zucchini. It's not actual noodles. I would do like the peppers, and I'd mainly get this stuff from the local farmers market, which is awesome because I think here's an example. So I would do this twice a week. If you guys can see, look, a watermelon, tons of peppers, like 30 of these peaches. I got a ton of strawberries. I got a ton of raspberries over here. And then I would get the peppers and the tomatoes and all that. Making it so my fridge mainly looked like this all the time. I remember my friend came over and he opened my fridge and he's like, you know what? Your fridge is very bright. And I always think about that. He goes, when you look at most people's fridges, it's like very dark. He's talking about like the stuff that's in it. It's like the color. But yeah, I mean, look at this. I got so many mangoes, so many kiwis, so many berries, so many peaches, like all the cherries, like those were in season. And you can tell like maybe like in zucchini noodles right here, and then like 10-15% vegetables. So this is how my day would start. Like I would wake up and I would probably eat about 15 apples, some 10 to 15 apples. I would go to the gym. I'd come back and eat like 4 cartons of berries. After that, I would go on like a hike or something just to start the day. And that's when I'd come back and I would pound like maybe like 4 or 5 peaches. And I got to tell you guys, I still lost so much weight. One of the things I think saved me from like withering away, is no matter how much I ate, I just kept losing weight, was these dates. So sometimes when I would be like really about it, I would eat like 20 or 30 dates. And for those of you guys that know the macros of dates, that's fucking insane, because 2 dates have like 36 grams of sugar, I believe, just in 2. So sometimes I would pound like 400 sugar. 400. And how many calories that is, I don't know. But eventually I scaled back on that because I noticed like when you're on this type of diet, you really can tell what affects you and what not, because this is not your standard like American food diet. This is ingredients only. Pure ingredients. So as you can see, just in my my fridge, I have like maybe 12 ingredients. Total during the 6 months, I probably ate 20 ingredients total. Very, very, very selective too. Only organic. I just wanted the cleanest diet I could possibly have to see how I feel. And I felt pretty good. This is also like, this is just a side note. Like this was the inside of the house. So it was really cool. Like I was feeling very in tune with nature, you gotta say. Because if you are what you eat, and you're only eating like stuff that is from nature, you start to feel like nature. And that's another thing, because a lot of people are like, oh, you are what you eat. Well, it's like, okay, if you're only eating dead stuff, you're going to feel dead. If you're only eating alive stuff, you're going to feel alive. Like everything I was eating was alive still. It doesn't die until, well, I mean, besides the vegetables, I guess that's questionable, but everything was alive. But yeah, all that, this picture will really capture it. I was getting very skinny. So at the start of this, I believe I was like 193. At this picture right here, I was 147. So I've lost like 45 pounds. I'm talking just gouging on this fruit. So look, like you can see, like look how skinny my back was. You can see into the crevice. I don't have a front-facing photo. But yeah, I was like getting very skinny. Like look how small my shoulders are. I gotta add, like I was working out during this time, but I wasn't gaining any strength, I can tell you that much. I also wasn't pushing myself too hard because I didn't feel the energy. Now someone like this, I follow this guy on Instagram, his name is the Fruitarian. He is a fruitarian for 11 years, bodybuilder. I'm not sure how he does it. He must have like the macros locked down better, but this is like what he eats. But yeah, really interesting stuff. So this is one thing I will talk about. When I was on this diet, well, I mean, first of all, I want to say like relative to Steve Jobs, I can see why he did it, because you feel so clear and your options are so limited. So you're not wasting time at dinners. When I would go out to dinner, I actually wouldn't even have anything. But depending on the actual spot, there were some spots I could go. Like, for example, when I went to New York City, well, before I get into that, let me bring up the Fruitarian. So, and this picture of me, this is around when I was like that 147 mark. This is near the end. So as you can see, I think this is a very common thing. When you're eating only fruit, I mean, I wish if I had a picture of Steve Jobs, I could show you too. For some reason, your hair starts to fall out. You can see how thin my hair is right here. Like, look how thick it is now. You know, it's pretty thick compared to like back then, but it was getting so thin. You can see he's losing his hair. Steve Jobs lost his hair. I'm not sure of the correlation, so that's like the biggest downside I saw to it. It's just a big loss of hair. I had to get on like minoxidil or whatever that stuff is, and that grew it back in like, 6 months. So it's no big deal, but that is something I noticed for sure. But yeah, I would say like my brain has never been more clear and more focused on all the tasks I was accomplishing at the time. But what was fun was it was like a game when I was visiting places. So like here, when I went to New York City, when I was speaking at the Shopify panel, some of you watching might have seen me there. This is, I think I was like 150 here, but you can see I was like looking pretty skinny, very skinny. That was the skinniest I've been since I was like in 7th grade. I guess 8th grade. But first thing I did was pull up. I found some like omakase berries over at the local Whole Foods. And then while we're at the Shopify event, New York has a lot of options. So I had this like This is like one of the only raw vegan restaurants in the world, actually. So I had that delivered with the lasagna, with all. I mean, this stuff was good. Don't get me wrong. This stuff was very good. And then like I wanted to try some other stuff, so I pulled up to this with Josh and had some like raw vegan sushi. And yeah, so it was kind of like a little game that I did, and then I made my own stuff too. Like here's like a raw vegan burger, and then Boulder actually it's closed down now, but Boulder also had one of the only raw vegan restaurants. I did not frequent this place too much. I limited it to like once a week as like my cheat days. So yeah, so as I started progressing down the line like that, I started to get more locked in on the exact. 1 second, let me end that. I started to get more in the zone. It was very difficult at first because your body will basically crave what you give it. And for so long, like I would give it Buffalo Wild Wings and like just stuff like that for a long time. It was very easy when it's late at night. You don't eat fruit to have been doing that. So that's what I was doing for so long. And getting on this diet, like losing so much weight, losing 40 pounds so quickly was unbelievable. And just eating only of nature and being in nature really makes you appreciate nature like a lot. It makes you see where the hippies are coming from for sure. Because, when it comes to like the factory farming stuff, Lupe Fiasco had a line. It was like, because I think let me see, Lupe Fiasco pulled all the flavor from the fat and made it flat. Yeah, he said, is it dry? Did it die from some inhumane conditions so it didn't go relaxed and all the tension from its demise pulled the flavor from the fat and made it flat? Because, again, taking it back to the principle that you are what you eat, like if you're eating like stressed chickens or stressed like cows and then they kill it, and not only are you eating something dead, but you're also eating something that's stressed, like you're going to feel dead and stressed by that principle. Now, during this, like I was eating stuff grown from nature and alive. I felt very alive and I felt very, just very in touch with everything, if that makes sense. But I got to make it clear, like I feel that way now, even though I mainly eat meat. And I think it's something that it's good to try because I feel that way now, not so much as I used to, unfortunately, but it's like a past lesson that's fully ingrained into myself, and I can like tap into that feeling whenever I want, like anytime I want, no matter what I'm having. I can just go in and feel that way, which I have done many times, and I still do, like just on a general basis. But anyway, I continued doing this through the time I moved to Scottsdale. And by then, I had it on a lock because the local farmers market was every Wednesday and Saturday. So I would get all my stuff on Wednesday and then all my stuff on Saturday. I started to meet the farmers, which was cool because I learned a lot of information from them. And then everything I couldn't get, like the mangoes and everything from out of the country, I'd get at Whole Foods organic. But talking to the farmers, it was interesting because, like, for example, I talked to my berry guy and he would be like, and I'd be like, well, why aren't these like, why doesn't say, you say these are organic, but it doesn't say like, what's that label? It's like USDA organic or something like that. I'm like, why doesn't it say that? And he gave me this info where he was like, basically, it's actually more toxic to have that certification and it costs a lot of money to do, because to have that certification, you basically are saying that you are going to use organic pesticides. He goes, I refuse to put pesticides on my land, and pesticides have never touched my land for the 50 years I've owned it, and I refuse to start using organic pesticides just to get a USDA certified organic label. Plus, it's like $10,000 a year, I think he said. But it's kind of messed up when you think about that, because you like the food ecosystem is so messed up that you actually cannot get certified organic unless you say you're going to use certified organic pesticides. If you don't use any pesticides, you cannot become certified organic, it turns out. So that's why it's always good to shop local and whatnot, right like that. So yeah, it was like it was bizarre, man. I mean, I started getting to be friends with like the raw vegan community, and that was really funny. This podcast is brought to you by dropshipping.ai. That means this podcast is brought to you by myself. This is my website. This website is completely free for everybody. I don't want your money now or later. This is not some funnel. This is completely free. You get a free dropshipping store built by AI. You get free products chosen by AI, and you get a free course on how to use AI to dropship in the modern day era. AI has changed every industry. Everybody knows that, and dropshipping is not excluded. We have the most relevant, most powerful, most up-to-date information specifically tailored to dropshipping and AI fusion that we're seeing right now. And like I said before, this is completely free. I'm one of Shopify's top affiliates in the entire world. In fact, I was awarded top Shopify affiliate in North America, so they pay me to give you guys this for free. It's a beautiful cycle called the cycle of life. So if you want to support yourself and support this podcast and support me, go to dropshipping.ai, claim that store, claim those products, claim that course, and let's get back to the podcast. Oh man, let me pull up. It's not worth pulling it up, but shout out to Mason, shout out to Ryan, because eventually when I got to Scottsdale, I was still raw vegan. I was going to farmers markets out there, and I was, doing my thing of like eating 6 or 7 mangoes here, and then like getting the juice, all that stuff. But by the time I got to Scottsdale, I was really like, it really started to mess with me, because I think like when you go from all in nature and eating on nature to like middle of Scottsdale and still trying to do that, it doesn't necessarily equate, especially since everything's like dead out there. But I still tried to push through to see how far I could go. And then me, Mason, and Ryan started going to these raw vegan meetups. And we found this really cool one. These cats have been doing it since 1991, every Thursday, even through COVID. And that was the funny thing I found about the raw vegan community, because obviously, like, it goes without saying that most people who are in that community are going to be very, very liberal. But these people hated the pharmaceutical companies so much. Like, they were so against the shot. And like every time I would show up to like, say, a raw vegan restaurant or like these raw vegan meetups, people would be talking so much shit on that, how it was like the scamdemic and all this stuff. So that was really surprising. But we would show up to the one in Arizona, and it was funny because everyone was mainly over 70. And it was just really interesting to see that side of life, especially at the raw plant-based restaurant in Boulder, just like talking with people I normally never would. And a previous version of myself would be very judgmental about for no reason, that I was aware of. And just talking with them, a funny thing that happened at that Scottsdale meetup was like these people, some of these people, like most of them were normal, nice people. Some of these people were out of their minds, like crazy out of their minds. A funny story I remember was like, we were sitting there and it was like a smorgasbord. So you would like bring your own stuff. So I would make a dish, like everyone would make their own dish. And, in the middle of the dinner, this guy walks in with his girlfriend, and he's carrying this huge box, and it was full of dates, and everyone's like, wow, that's a lot of dates. Where'd you get that from? And he's like, oh, I just climbed that palm tree on 52nd and Alparoa and just poured them all down. This motherfucker climbed up a palm tree and just extracted all the dates from the tree and just brought them to the meetup. And then since he was the last to eat, he just got a big bowl, and he took all the leftovers and just put all the leftovers of everything into a big bowl and just stirred it up like a soup and just ate it that way. I just never seen anything like that before. But yeah, I mean, it was an interesting experience to say the least. Now, I didn't go as far as Steve Jobs did on the fruitarianism. I think I did try that for like a day or two, and like I could have done it for much longer, but it was just boring. Like, it was already boring enough going between like 15, 20 ingredients, but limited to just one per week. I tried it with mangoes for a day or two, and then I tried it with like peaches, and it's whatever. But I was already so restricted that like I couldn't go much longer, and I feel like restricting it to one ingredient would have just like maybe pushed me over the edge, and I just wanted to go the rest of the year, which fortunately I did. There came a day where I decided enough was enough, and I remember that day I was at Pranav's, and I started eating a little bit of hummus, just a little bit of hummus, and then a little bit, and then a lot, and then a lot, and then immediately I went from pretty all fruit and raw vegetable and some raw vegetables for 6 months to that day. I remember that day I put on like 9 pounds that day because it was 7 a.m. I ate his whole thing of hummus and some pita, and then I had like 2 things of frozen mac and cheese, and then I drove to Whole Foods and I got like a full platter of stuff from the hot bar. Walked across the street, got a breakfast burrito and some potatoes, and then I went back home, and then I went to I went to STK for lunch. I got a bunch of appetizers. From there, I went down the street, and around like 2 or 3, I had Chick-fil-A. At 5, we went and had a dinner at this one restaurant I'd go to where I got like 2 appetizers, an entree, and a dessert. And then Frank was still hungry, so then we went over to Toka, and we had, I think, like 3 or 4 more appetizers, 3 entrees, and then 2 desserts. And then I think I went home and ate a bunch of candy or something. But oh boy, like I was feeling terrible after that. I'm not gonna lie, terrible. And then I proceeded to put on like 18 pounds in the next week, which was crazy. It's not my record though. My all-time record was at the end of 75 hard in 2022. I put on 18 pounds in 4 days. That one was nuts. That one was crazy. Like I can eat like nobody's business. So this whole thing, tying it back to this, was very interesting because I could eat as much as I possibly wanted, and I would either not put on weight or I would lose weight. And so for that, it was cool. And you would have to eat like a lot of fruit. You have to eat a lot when you're on this type of diet. So I was actually spending a lot more money on this than I ever was on any diet ever before. But all in all, interesting life experience for sure. I think it gave me a more appreciation for nature, more appreciation for people who choose plant-based, because I never got it before, but now I get it. Even outside of like the health benefits, I understand why someone turns vegan. Like I get it. Like I think it's cool that you would go and possibly sacrifice your own body to not partake in the eating of any animals. I don't care what you say. I don't care what you call me. Like I respect it. At the end of the day, after this, before I didn't respect it and I didn't know why. Now I understand. Maybe it's my parasites talking. Or maybe I was just ignorant and I was judging somebody off of something I knew nothing about and I've never tried ever before. So that is my opinion on it all. I always thought like maybe I'll try it, because like I will say it was very hard to do. Looking back on it, it was, but in hindsight, it was an awesome experience. Like I learned so much about nutrition. I learned so much about nature, and I learned so much about health, and I learned so much about just psychological stuff. Like for example, like the judgment of like other people's diets for what reason. Let me see if I have any other. Oh yeah, this is just some of the other stuff I'd make too. Like, oh wait, I forgot my screen share is not on anymore. But I was just gonna show you like I would get very creative with it. Like what I'm looking at right now. I chop up tomatoes, I chop up jalapenos, I chop up red bell peppers, I chop up onions, and then I throw like some cilantro in there. One thing of lime juice. I'd mix that all up for some pico de gallo, and then for the chips, I would cut up into little like chip slices bell peppers, and I'd eat the pico de gallo with the bell peppers. So it was really interesting. I know a lot of people have asked me about this time of my life. It feels like forever ago. It was pretty much, 2 years ago. It was forever ago. And it was so weird because when you take on something like that, it is so part of your life that it feels, after a few months, it feels like, this is just my life. And then after a few months of stopping, you don't even think about it anymore. Like, I haven't thought about this in a long time, when it used to be like my daily thoughts of like, oh, what am I going to eat today, or whatnot. But I really respect everyone I met during that period, because I think that's another huge lesson I learned going through this, is so many friendships and relationships are built around consumerism. What are you consuming together? Whether that be like, consuming movies or whatever, but mainly what I've seen is like the majority of friendships are built around actual consumption of food and drinks, like alcohol and food. So when I took that completely out of the factor, it was amazing to meet people where it didn't even matter. Like for example, my buddy Steven, who introduced me to like everyone in Colorado, like during the Millennium concert, like invited me to the Millennium concert, would invite me out to Vail, invite me all these places, and we'd always hang out, and then I'd invite all of them up. We had some fun times at the Star House in Boulder, like going to concerts and stuff. But the whole time, you got to remember, they're drinking and everything, and ordering pizza and whatnot, and I'm only eating my fruit and not drinking, obviously not drinking at all. So it was like really cool to still gain all these friendships and still have all this fun time without having to be consumed. And I wasn't isolated because of my non-consumption. I was in some aspects, because like if somebody visited me, like they'd have to understand, like we're not going to be going to restaurants. What we're going to be doing is like hiking or going mountain biking, or going like summer sledding, or like going on road trips and all this stuff. And they could eat whatever they want, and I would eat whatever I want. But it was a friendship. It was like, sometimes like you can take away consumption from friendships and there is no friendship. So it was really cool, because I'm sure I lost some friends, or I'm sure there are some friends I didn't even get to make because of the non-consumption. But are those friends I would even want at the end of the day? Probably not. So some of my best friends I actually met during this period in Colorado, all during a period of non-consumption. And that's what I really respect about them, because I know they're there for the right reasons, for sure. Like they got nothing from me, like except me, and that's awesome. So yeah, guys, that's my opinion on it. Final thoughts: I don't think this diet contributed to Steve Jobs' death at all. I think that's stupid to say. If you say it about that, then next time your aunt or uncle dies, or someone dies, how about you have a discussion about their diet? Were they eating fried foods? Were they eating inflammatory foods? Like, that's just dumb and stupid to even like mention, because especially when it's clearly it's a healthy diet. The gorilla eats it. Like, all these animals mainly eat it. But that's a whole debate for another day. I'm really interested to see what people say in the comments about this one. Like, I'm really interested, because this one is very different from every video I've ever made. And it's very rare. Like, I remember when I started this, I would try to find YouTube videos of people talking about this online, and couldn't really find many. There was one guy I remember. It'll probably be like a recommended one. He's standing in the kitchen, and it has like 4 million views, but he's just talking about how beneficial his 3 months on fruit was, and he did only fruit for 3 months. So I did like fruit for 6 months with 10% vegetables, and that was my thing. Oh, and lastly, I remember, because I got so skinny, I would say the biggest side effect of eating only fruit, I never noticed any negative side effects whatsoever. Like, except for like feeling weaker at the gym. I would still hit the gym all the time. I just couldn't put on any muscle or gain any strength. But because I lost so much weight, got down to 147, which I haven't been to since 8th grade. I remember when the cold came in, oh my God, I could feel the cold. And I'm really good with cold. I did cold therapy all the time, cold plunges, like I'd walk around in the cold. But when that cold came around and I was 45 pounds lighter, it felt like it just ripped through my skin straight into the center of my bone marrow. So that's why I had to get out of there and go to Scottsdale. But that is a whole another story. Anyway, guys, let me know what you think about this. This is Steve Jobs. This is me going on Steve Jobs' diet for 4 months. Did I feel like Steve Jobs? I'm not gonna lie, sometimes I did. Like, I felt so in tune, so like clear thinking. But I would recommend everyone do it or try it. I would never do it again. Well, maybe for like a week or two, just as like a cleanse, because I think this diet's more so of like a cleanse sort of thing. So it's not. I don't agree with like the fruitarian guy, like a long term solution. Not me. There are some people like I think her name was like Raw Vegan Christina, because that was another thing. Like I got into like the raw vegan. What do you call it? The raw vegan influencers, which there's not a lot of them, but there are some really cool ones. But anyway, that's it, guys. Let me know what you think about this, and I'll see you in the next one.